Looks like we got someone from Louisiana there.
Steve Scalise, he's a member of Congress from Louisiana, has been there since 2008. He's 49 years old. He's the head of what's called the House Republican Study Committee, which is a group of conservative members. He was the conservative choice. Like most members of the House these days on the Republican side, though, he is a conservative, and he's further to the right than the gentleman he beat. He seems to have won on the first ballot, and we now have a new leadership team. John Boehner stays as Speaker. Kevin McCarthy of California, replacing Eric Cantor, of course, who lost in that race in his Richmond district last week, decided to step down as leader. And now joining them, Steve Scalise. As whip, his job is to round up votes for Republicans, but he now becomes one of the more prominent members of the Republican Party in Washington, talking about conservative ideas. He's been, like, again, most House Republicans, a pretty firm opponent of President Obama. And we're going to expect him to come out and speak now, maybe as part of the new leadership team, maybe by himself. It'll be interesting to see what he talks about, how he wants to define himself, introducing himself to most Americans for the first time in what has been historically a pretty important job and one that could lead him to end up being Speaker of the House someday.
So how's he going to work with John Boehner and Kevin McCarthy? I mean, is this, do you think, a good partnership between the three of them there?
I think it potentially is. Now, he's not as close personally to Boehner as McCarthy is, but within the House Republican Conference, I think Eric Cantor, one could argue, maybe pointing a finger at him, maybe just the dynamics of the relationship. He probably was putting more tension within the leadership ranks because of his fraught relationship with John Boehner than I think we'll see now. And Scalise did not run as an anti-Boehner candidate by any means. McCarthy had the support of leadership. So I think this team has a chance to have good internal relations. I think the bigger issue for the party and for people who want to see Washington work better than it does is, what does Scalise, someone more conservative than the man he's replacing, McCarthy, what does he do to inject ideology into how the party's going? And how smoothly can he help the House run when a big part of Washington now is figuring out how to get a Republican House, Democratic Senate, to maybe work together to get something
those
done.
are a lot of the big questions. I mean, we've seen such a fragmented party, it seems, and that's not going to do them any good as we move forward, both in terms of midterms, but also 2016, because you might be able to get someone elected in a primary in 2016, but whether or not you can get them elected on a national basis is an entirely different story. What do you see the party doing with this three, now at least in charge of the House, able to accomplish as we move forward over the next year and a half? Mark?
I think it doesn't make it any more likely, probably less likely with Cantor's departure, McCarthy moving up, that anything gets done. Republicans are looking towards the midterms, and they're feeling pretty good about their chances. And giving President Obama a political victory on any domestic issue, even though there's a lot of agreement on what issues need to be worked on, I don't think it's something the party wants to do. And, of course, there'll be new leadership elections after the midterms. This leadership team could return, but could also be dramatically altered if John Boehner decides not to seek another term as Speaker. And you could also see challenges. This time McCarthy got one challenge from one member, but it was not a very strong one. You could see after the midterms, depending on the results, the makeup of the new Congress, and also the sort of lessons Republicans draw on, you could see this leadership team not come back as we enter the new Congress starting in January, not too far from now.